All right, welcome back, everybody. We've jumped a couple days forward, I think, from our last episode because I had to went down into a dungeon and completely wiped all of my blue Pikmin. And then I also had to, and when I wiped my blue Pikmin, I realized that I had not done something that I should have done earlier. So as you can see, I only have 31 blue Pikmin left. And in last episode, I think I had like closer to 80. So what we're going to do here is, on the other side of the bridge that we made, we're going to collect a different type of berry. As you can see, I've got ×5 of the red potion thingy. There's also a purple berry that does a different thing. Instead of the red potion, which powers up Pikmin, I've got a purple potion I have not gotten yet that I need to get. Isn't that fun? While we're at it, we're going to also try to collect at least one item. Also, these guys are going to die. Anytime I see little bugs, little bug guys pop up, they're going to get eaten by my Pikmin. And I'm going to turn them into Pikmin food. You guys are going to go up the branch, up the stalk, and you're going to knock these down. We're going to create Pikmin juice. And that's going to be the basis of nearly this whole episode. Because there is an item directly, I guess, to the north of where I'm at. But I need yellow Pikmin to do it. So, me checking it out right now. And so we're going to send our yellow Pikmin. We're going to go back and get yellow Pikmin here in a minute. Because we need to make sure that they are super duper yellow. And yeah, we'll go from there. Right now we're just sort of bringing our blue Pikmin over just to double check that I cannot actually use blue Pikmin to grab this item. And then we'll have to come back, like I said, with some yellow Pikmin, because blue is just a little, doesn't fly high enough, unfortunately. And this is purple juice. Captain Olimar, we've completed my research on the purple berries. Behold, the ultra bitter spray. It's untested. I believe it will be highly effective. Approach enemies and press the up button. When necessary, I can produce 1 bottle of spray from every 10 berries. Press the start button to contact me and confirm your berry count by using the L button. So, since I can't use blue Pikmin here, we're just going to throw the blue Pikmin. And I'll bring yellow Pikmin back to grab up the lid of a pickle jar, which is what that is. I'm hungry for pickles. I want pickles. Do you want pickles? I want pickles. Eventually this flower thing's going to respawn. It actually does it quite frequently. I would have imagined that it would only do it, say, twice a day. Say you exhaust the berries on a plant, you would have to come back after the halfway point of the day. So if you did it first thing in the morning, you'd have to come back at noon. If you did it, say, later in the morning, you'd have to come back towards evening. But this one actually will respawn a lot faster than that. So, quick story, or not so quick story perhaps. A while ago, maybe it was last year, I went down to Columbia to visit my brother. My sister's going to be having her wedding here in about a month. Depending on when this episode airs, that is. Of course, it might be closer to, like, say, 2 weeks. But anyways, so my brother and his wife and his child are coming up because his child is the flower girl in our wedding. In the wedding, not my wedding, her wedding. So that'll be fun, right? And so, recently, as my mom and dad went away for a European cruise down a river in France. And then they're going to come back to Paris to do the touristy thing in Paris. But sort of try to make a long story short. Like the week before they're set to leave, my mom sends me a not a text message. She calls me on the phone and asks if I want to go later this year around September to visit Italy. And I don't know what to say to her because on the one hand, I don't speak any language that is not English. Which is, I guess, fine if you're visiting a country. You don't not necessarily expect to speak the language, but I'd like to speak the language. Okay. And Italia, if you will. Home of my great-grandfather. He came over on the boat. My grandfather, father, myself, all born in America. I'd like to visit it. My brother Steve's visited it, but then again, he lived in Europe for a year. He had a as part of his master's degree, he had to spend a year in the United States and a year at a I don't know, it's not a branch campus, but let's say a brother campus in France. My brother on the weekends was able to travel to the other countries in and around France. And one of the things that I guess I as an American take sort of for granted is the fact that, you know, the United States is kind of similar or maybe a little bigger than Europe. So like to go from Maine from the most northeast part of the United States, which would be Maine, all the way to the southmost point of the United States, which will stay in this, I know it's Texas, but the tip of Texas down by the Rio Grande. We'll say in terms of distance, we'll say that the most quote unquote farthest point diagonally would be the tip of well, I guess Florida's even more further south than Texas. But I just we'll talk San Diego, roughly around San Diego's the diagonal opposite of the tip of Maine. And then if you go from say the corner of where Canada and Washington the state meet, you go diagonal, you would hit the tip of Florida, would be the diagonals. But what I'm trying to get at is, if I wanted to drive from Pennsylvania to Ohio, that wouldn't be very difficult, whether I lived in Eastern Ohio or Western Pennsylvania, Eastern Pennsylvania. I live in Western Pennsylvania, so it's not hard to get to Ohio, obviously. But if I wanted to go to New Jersey, well, it would take me some hours. It'd take me, 5-6 hours to get across the stupid PA Turnpike. You get to New Jersey, or you could take other roads if you didn't want to go to New Jersey. Go to Delaware or Maryland or Virginia or North Carolina, or you go north from roughly Philadelphia, go up towards New York. And in that regard, my brother, it was sort of the way my brother looked at it. He's not driving from Canada to Mexico. He's driving from Pennsylvania to Indiana, roughly speaking. So he was able to visit Germany. I mean, I'm not sure how long he spent in any of these countries, mind you. But I know he got to Italy. He went down to visit Mount Vesuvius because he's a volcanologist. So one of his things is to visit the volcanoes that he knows, like Vesuvius. And there's probably some in the Pacific that, like Krakatoa, or probably even lesser known volcanoes than even that. He's visited them. So. But my mom talked about, we should go to Italy in September. I'm like, it is May. You're asking me to make a decision right now about whether or not I want to go to Italy. Because basically, my understanding is my aunt is going to be there. My dad's sister, if you will. My mom wants to meet her in Italy. And the way this apparently went is she went down the most important people in her life list. So number one would be my dad. So of course he would be the first person who would be on the list of, hey, should we go Italy to visit Italy, as well as meet with your sister. My dad says to my mom, well, we're doing the Viking River cruise in France, and we're going to go to Paris afterward. Don't you think that's enough travel for the year? My mom says, no, I want to see lots more stuff. And my dad's like, I'm not sure I want to do 2 airplane rides over to Europe. So he's thinking about it. I'm number 2 on the list, which my mom basically offered. If I wanted to go, I have the other ticket essentially, to go with her to Italy. And I'm very tempted to go. Even if it costs me money, like I know it's going to cost me money, but to fly over there and visit Italy for a week or so. But like after visiting Colombia, not knowing the language, I sort of had this split feeling. On the one hand, if you were to say to me right now, Chris, will you ever go back to Colombia if your brother and his wife and your niece, his child, will decide, if you ever decide, would you go and visit them again if they didn't move from where they're at in Colombia? And I would say this, and I know this. I'm not God. I'm not my brother. I'm not my sister-in-law. I'm not their child. I kind of hope they come back to the United States. Only because it would be just so much easier to make a 4-hour plane ride, at most, to fly from the East Coast to the West Coast, versus and visit them a couple times a year, instead of having to make it a long, drawn-out, planned-out trip because they live down in South America. So not only do I gotta make sure I have a passport to get down there, I gotta make sure that Colombia stays off the banned country list. Well, I can't really help that, I guess. And then, in addition to all that fun jazz, it's like a 6 or an 8-hour plane ride to get down there, because there's no direct flights from, Western Pennsylvania to Colombia, let alone from inside Colombia to where my brother lives. My brother lives in Bucaramanga, and so you have to fly into Bogota, which is their capital, and then from there you take a smaller, though not tiny plane by any stretch of imagination. It's definitely not a tiny plane. But you take a smaller plane from Bucaramanga, from Bogota to Bucaramanga. But even within the United States, you're gonna have a layover, whether that's in Georgia or Florida or sometimes JFK, which is kind of weird to me. On our way back, we went from Colombia to Bucaramanga. I'm sorry. No, we went from Bucaramanga to Panama City, and then from Panama City we flew to JFK, and then from JFK we flew back home. We also had like a 12-hour, or not a 12-hour, we had a 6-hour layover in Bucaramanga on our way down. That's not fun. I understand you want to have some leeway there where it's like, okay, so it takes 6 hours to fly there, and if your plane gets delayed by an hour and you have to make a whatever you call that trip, a transfer plane, you're going to need some time to not only get through customs, but get your baggage and head back to your next terminal, okay? And maybe you want to eat food because, I don't know, maybe they served you on the plane, maybe they didn't. I don't know. Depends on what kind of flight you have. Anyways, grabble up all of our Pikmin, and today, and tomorrow we'll work on getting to the underground layer that you can really only get to with water Pokemon, with blue Pikmin. Mail. Lately, I've been getting tons of mail from a strange person selling designer items at cut-rate prices. Sounds like a deal. Should I check them? Should I send them your bonus check? No! No, child of mine. You should not send any of their money. If your mama is giving you a allowance, your allowance should be based on how much money, or not much, how much money, how much, what kind of chores you do, and it should be an agreed amount of money. So if Papa's making, say, 100 Pokos a year, or he's making 1,000 Pokos all at once, does not mean that you suddenly get a raise in your allowance, unless you're doing more work. Now, obviously, if you have more Pokos coming in, you can raise your child's allowance. You could say, well, you know, we're making more money now as a couple. You know, I used to only make 100 Pokos a year. I've struck oil. We're making, you know, thousands of Pokos a year now. We can relax. We can retire. We can give you a bigger allowance. That's fine. But if, you know, this whole Pikmin journey does not end in Mr. Olimar retiring at the plump age of whatever he is, because he's made so much money for his company, and they've given him, say, 20% of the total cut, minus whatever investment they have. I mean, you could be pretty well off for a couple years, if not the rest of your life. But I wouldn't want to, like, give my kid, say you're giving your kid, I don't know, we'll say $20 a week in allowance. Maybe that's a lot, maybe that's a little, you tell me, I don't know. But say I'm giving my kid $20 a week in allowance, okay? Suddenly I hit the lottery, okay? Or no, let's not say I hit the lottery. Let's say I have oil or natural gas in my backyard, okay? And for about 5 years as they're extracting the oil or natural gas, they're paying me a percentage of the royal, or they're paying me royalties, or they're paying me a percentage of what they're pulling out of the ground. Say, I don't know, we'll just say, we're gonna assume that they really got one over on me, and they're gonna pay me 5% of the total value of the natural gas or oil reserve that is under my property, okay? I don't know what the correct rate is. I'd have to obviously look that up. But, sort of get to my point. Say instead of me making whatever my wages are, I'm making, say, twice my wages now. Okay? And I went up my kid's allowance from $20 a week to $40 a week. Well, say after 5 years, the oil, the gas, whatever, it's dried up. There's no more deposit underneath my property. So obviously, whatever percentage or deal I was getting for the rights to those minerals is now gone. And now I have to tell my son, well, we're back to my regular wage, because I've chosen to invest the money in the stock market, or I'm using the money for my retirement, or whatever. So you got to go back to a $20 allowance or a $10, whatever you set the allowance at. I'm not sure he's going to be very happy that he's going to take a major pay cut because I no longer have royalties rolling in anymore. He's going to kind of expect that paycheck to continue. Unless, of course, you're going to say, well, son, I'm going to continue to give you your $10 or $12 in allowance every week. But because we have all this money rolling in, I'm willing to buy you stuff for Christmas that is normally outside of our budget. Or say for your birthday. But I've always been a big proponent. My parents raised me this way. I've always been a big proponent of teaching children the value of money. And not only teaching them the value of money, but also, like, you don't get an allowance unless you are working. You're not doing chores, you're not helping out around the house, you're not getting money from it. Okay? You do not get money for doing nothing. You get money for service. I get money because I go to fucking work. If I didn't go to work, I would not get money. I could, you know, obviously become a welfare person, live off welfare or whatever, but you're not going to live nearly as comfortable as I do. And you're going to be bored, and you're going to probably do stupid shit like overspend on stuff that you shouldn't spend on because, you know, what is saving money, really? But anyways, I divert here. Basically, you don't get paid. I don't get paid a wage unless I work. So you don't get an allowance unless you do something for me. And it doesn't have to be difficult. I don't have to pay. I mean, I could pay you whatever, obviously. But sort of my point is, if I give you 20 bucks a week and you go out, you know, that makes what, 20, 40, 60, 80 bucks roughly a month, okay? You can do whatever you want with that 80 bucks, okay? You want to spend $80 on chocolate? That's your business. You want to spend 80, you want to save that money up and buy something big? That's your business. But there should be a couple different things you got to keep in mind. One, I'm giving you an allowance, but I expect a certain amount of it to get donated to either charity or, in this case, church. I'm gonna say church because that's what my dad and mom made me do. Like, we'd go to church every week, and I would donate a certain amount of my money. I still do, as an adult, as a person who makes a regular wage now. I try to make sure that the hard part is I've gotten into the what is it called? The habit of the cashless payment. So I usually pay for everything either with my credit or debit card, and then balance my books afterwards. The issue with that, of course, is I don't have physical cash on me. So when it comes time for church, I need to put money in my and not my wallet, but my church envelope, and I don't physically have cash anymore. So I have to make either a special trip to the ATM to pull money out specifically for my church envelope, or I go whole weeks without giving any money to the church, and then all of a sudden I'm putting a $100 bill in my my wallet, or not my wallet, my church envelope, to make up for all the weeks I found this is the simplest way to defeat these stupid crayfish-looking motherfuckers. Is you throw a singular Pikmin in their direction, hopefully it's close enough to their range, and then as soon as he lands, you recall him. Because if you don't recall him, the guy will come out of his den and eat your Pikmin. But by recalling him immediately, you've baited the crawfish into doing exactly what you wanted to do. Alright, so this is another by the way, this is another item we need to get. So it requires me to actually do this puzzle, which is basically I need to put either Olimar or the boss on top of this first platform. And then I need to slowly but surely work my way from, we'll say, camera facing right to left. And each platform is a little shorter than the next one, the one to the left of it. So I can't just lift Olimar and the Pikmin up on this platform and just walk across, because each one is like a step. And Pikmin will not go any higher than just a slight incline. So what I have to do is I have to put a bunch of Pikmin on this first one, knock that one down, lift up the one that Olimar's currently standing on. Then, once I do that, I have to repeat the process with the middle two, and then the outside, the left and right two, in order to get Olimar and enough Pikmin over there. Now, the brilliance here, however, is that either Olimar or the boss can toss Pikmin up there. So I don't really need to give Olimar 20 Pikmin and have him slowly but surely move Pikmin across the thing. I can easily just take the remaining of the Pikmin, push up the current block, have Olimar move over with Pikmin, and then eventually give him the 20 or 30 Pikmin that he needs to continue in that direction. I'm trying to call just enough Pikmin to me. So this is what I'll do instead. I'll toss them until I lift up. I'm gonna need to get around 20-ish Pikmin. And also toss them like this. But the plan, do the same thing with the block to the far left. Make sure I have enough Pikmin here. All the rest of them down to me. And like I said, this is in terms of the number of Pikmin that Olimar has right now versus the one the boss has, it doesn't really matter. So long as at the end of everything, there's enough Pikmin standing on the block that's currently there. But I should be good with what Olimar currently has in his roster. I think he has 20 or more Pikmin. It should be good in, 26 Pikmin, so that should be more than enough to get him. Nope, not what I wanted. Should be more than enough to get Olimar over to the item that I'm trying to get. And to, of course, so we're going to do this. Lift up Olimar. He's going to move to the left. And I'm going to do the one in the middle here, I guess. And, yeah, that should get him up to the place he needs to get to. Like that. See? Nifty, huh? So he's got roughly 27 Pikmin. I need to lift him up. It shouldn't be too hard. I've got more than 27 Pikmin here at my disposal to lift up Olimar. But in any case, I can also use Olimar to remove some of the Pikmin off the thing. I don't think I'll need more than, say, 25 of these. Okay, I only need 20. Great. So we should be able to get this nut thing. And then once we get that into our chip, we'll head back and we'll do the underground cave area here. So do that here and do this here. Gonna create some honey so that my flower Pikmin can become, so my leaf Pikmin can become flower Pikmin. The only downside, well, there's not really a doubt. Well, the reason I'm monitoring them is because I want to make sure there's no enemies up here. They're gonna make my life not happy. Which apparently there is a guy up here that I'm gonna have to keep an eye on. But adding a couple extra Pikmin to that carrying spot should make it easier. I want to make sure there's no roly guys that are gonna squash all my Pikmin. Or eat all of them, whatever. Yeah, even if he grabs 2 of my Pikmin, that's a big deal. I just want him to continue on his path back home. I'll punch you guys. Even though ultimately you're gonna get out of my range, so it's not really gonna matter. Make sure there's no little grubby guys over here that need punched. Get punched, grubby guys. Yeah, fly. Can't do anything when you're flying like a jackass. You, on the other hand, fun. Stop eating my Pikmin! Yeah, these guys are eating my Pikmin. You guys pay for that here in a second. Got a half day's worth of sunlight left to go. All I have to do is get back to the last of the caves. I find your pathing annoying. You didn't need to go underneath the yellow Pikmin thing, but obviously there's some sort of bug in here where they can get stuck, so you clearly force them to go in that direction. Prevent them from getting stuck. And that's the last item I need to worry about on the above ground area, I guess. Come on, flower or leaf Pikmin, you're slow as fuck. Try not to leave you behind so you don't get smushed by this frog. Very much what's gonna happen. Alright, let's do this. So we cleared out the rest of this area, so there shouldn't be anything left here to eat us. Gather, you can join up with Olimar here in just a sec. They still seem to be, oh yeah, I need planted too, my Pikmin, I forgot. That's why it says 69 out of 70. Because I got planted!